Meeting for the Goose Creek CISD Board of Trustees on August 6, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. to order. Before we begin our meetings, we've been reading our vision statement. So Goose Creek, at Goose Creek CISD, our goal is to develop the whole child. Goose Creek CISD develops and enhances each learner's intellectual, social, and emotional well-being, facilitated by a highly qualified team committed to growth, community collaboration, innovation, success, and determination. Our vision is we empower every student with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in a global community. Our core values are graduate every child, children first in a safe and nurturing educational environment, collaborative community and parental involvement, integrity, respect, humility and transparency, service before self, diversity respected. Was our meeting properly posted, Ms. Secretary?
Yes, the meeting was properly posted.
Can't hear?
All right.
Meeting was properly posted.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Okay, for the record, note all 7 board members are in attendance. Okay, we'll turn the time over to opening exercises.
President Poppy, school board members, Mr. O'Brien. The opening exercises for the August 6, 2018 board meeting will begin with the prayer led by Augustine Laredo. Everyone please rise.
Please bow your heads and join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to be here today, for everybody that came. Please give us the wisdom to make good, positive decisions tonight as we look forward for our district and try to move it in a way positive for the future. Please bless our students and teachers as they come back to school, and please give us the good start and remind us of why we are out here, which is our kids. We ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
The pledges will be led by Jessica Woods.
You'll place your hand over your heart and recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated.
All right, before we go on to the next item on our agenda, I do want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Appreciate you taking time out of your night to be here and to show your support and to express your why you're here. Next item is citizens participation. The next item on our agenda is citizen participation. This is the time that the board will hear any public concerns or public comments from those who have signed up to address the board. Before hearing such matters, I remind each speaker that you are limited in your presentation to 3 minutes and that you should not identify any teachers, administrators, staff, or students by name in addressing your concerns or comments. Pursuant to state law and board policy be illegal, the board cannot consider or take action on your concerns at this meeting unless it pertains to an item on the posted agenda for this meeting. Any deliberation or decision on an item that is not posted for consideration at this meeting shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda of a future meeting. Okay, we have 10 speakers who have signed up tonight. Our first speaker is Ms. Libby Zeglin. Ms. Jessica will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining.
Good evening, school board members, administration, and guests. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Libby Zeglin, and I've lived in this district for over 20 years. I am here tonight to speak about the renewal of the superintendent's contract. There are many reasons that the contract for Mr. O'Brien should be extended. He has made huge progress building morale within the district. It is obvious when you walk into the schools the positive changes he has made in morale compared to the atmosphere we had before his tenure as superintendent began. Teachers and staff feel like they are being heard by administration like never before. Before O'Brien, they felt like they were operating in a vacuum. Now, even when they don't agree, they feel like they are being heard and have input on issues. Mr. O'Brien is also a genuinely kind man that is always involved in the activities of the students. The students know who he is, and the teachers enjoy having him in their classrooms. This is such a positive role model for our kids. When I spoke to a friend of mine about O'Brien's involvement with the students, she said that Mr. O'Brien is always at local events where Goose Creek students are participating. She has a daughter in FFA and said that there had never been another superintendent in attendance when the kids were showing their animals at the fairgrounds. And this is just one example of all of the extra time and commitment Mr. O'Brien has to our students. Even when parents have had disagreements on changes that were being made, Mr. O'Brien has always been willing to talk about the issues, listen to the other side of the story, and make decisions based on all the facts. It has been a year filled with a large number of changes in our district. We've rezoned our high schools, changed all the start times, and many families are still trying to get back into their homes after Hurricane Harvey. I really don't think there is any reason to add changing our superintendent to that list. Doing so would be detrimental to our community. I personally believe that the board, not the administration, has a public relations problem. It is frustrating that the board has moved so slowly on the decisions to renew Mr. O'Brien's contract. It feels like the board was trying to do something in the middle of summer when staff, parents, and students were out of town and busy doing things unrelated to school. This is not the first time the board has appeared to do something like this. Many parents are still trying to figure out transportation and childcare arrangements for the new start times. The success of the upcoming bond election could greatly depend on the actions of this board over the next few months. Each board member is elected to serve the will of the people that elected them. Based on the number of the community that is here tonight, it should be obvious that we want you to renew Mr. O'Brien's contract.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Zeglin. Our next speaker is Melissa Idle. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Idle. Thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding our superintendent's contract. I currently have 2 students enrolled at Goose Creek Schools, and the caliber of leadership of this district is important to me and my family. To be worthy of confidence, a superintendent must demonstrate 2 things: quality of character and proven competence. Mr. O'Brien exhibits the highest levels of both, which is a rare occurrence. To assume that's easily replaceable is to make a grave mistake. His actions and motives are completely transparent, and it's obvious that his priority is the greater good for our students, our district, and our community. Mr. O'Brien's genuine compassion and caring for faculty and students is deeply felt. He spends quality time on the campuses. He cheers our athletes and bands at sporting events. He supports scholars at history fair and ag students at youth fair. The list goes on. He values people, and he knows how important it is to treat them well. He has become a highly respected and valued member of our community. He's a great guy, but we also hired him because we believed he would do a great job, and we were right. Under his leadership, morale is higher than it's been in many years. Our students routinely advance to state and national competitions. We have campuses and programs receiving national recognition. Scores are up. We built several new facilities to accommodate growth and prepare students for a changing workforce. Mr. O'Brien has passionately lobbied for public education at the state level, advocating for all students. He has represented us well and well beyond his duty. The challenges our district faces are not unique, but what this board does not seem to grasp is that every district is unique. Mr. O'Brien understands this, and he's moving us in the right direction for our district. It is not practical to expect immediate solutions to problems created over decades or problems that have never before been seen. It is not your job to micromanage the superintendent. It is your job to hire quality people and then allow them to do what they do best. To nitpick, minimize, or overlook his accomplishments is to do him and the district a great disservice. Community trust in this board is completely eroded. One trustee publicly stated that he would always vote based on what he thought was best, regardless of whether it would cost him re-election. He has effectively stated that he does not care what his constituents think. This board only listens to community concerns when confronted publicly and en masse. Listen now. If you cannot fairly evaluate Mr. O'Brien's performance and ethically manage his contract, you are unfit to serve. If you force quality people to leave, you disadvantage our students, you damage our district's reputation, and you diminish our capacity to hire quality people in the future. The community uproar over the past few weeks constitutes a clear mandate to this board. Extend his contract. There is no better person for the job.
All right, thank you, Ms. Idle. Our next speaker is Janice Coffey.
When I first became a school board member, I was told that the question that should drive every decision board members make is what is best for the children of Goose Creek. Tonight I remind you that every decision you make should be made with that question in mind. An example of considering what is best for all students of our district is the change in school start times. This suggestion did not come from Mr. O'Brien or the administration, but instead from you, Pete Poppy. Parents and students addressed the board with their concerns, yet ignoring their input, the board, under the strong encouragement of you, Pete Poppy, pushed this through without giving adequate attention to what is best for the students of this district. Why have a superintendent but not allow him to be the leader of the district? When the school board decided that Randy O'Brien should be named our superintendent, he was the perfect answer to the question, what is best for the children of our district? The district had been through a very turbulent time, and the worries and concerns of the administrators and teachers easily made their way to the classrooms where students could sense that all was not well. When Randy O'Brien stepped into the leadership position, he immediately made every effort to soothe those concerns and put the district back on the track to success for every student and every employee. Throughout his time as superintendent, he has visited campuses and led the way to implementing a climate for student success. In addition to his presence on campuses, he is actively involved in our community. This very active involvement, again, benefits our students and the many feelings of goodwill it brings our district. I have received many unsolicited positive comments since Randy O'Brien became our superintendent regarding the fact that he is a hard-working, honest, cooperative man who has no personal ambition to list the superintendents of GCCISD on his resume as a bragging right, but instead is committed each and every day to doing what is absolutely the best for the students of Goose Creek. He has worked hard to implement the desires of this board, his 7 bosses, even though they were often in conflict with what he deemed best for the students of our district. As board members, I remind you again that your job is to make every decision with the best interest of our students in mind. However, the fact that you, Mr. Poppy, as board president, have placed on the agenda tonight consideration to approve interim superintendent employment agreement suggests that you have a personal agenda and once again are unwilling to listen to those who know our students best and who understand what an excellent fit Randy O'Brien is as the superintendent of Goose Creek. You have not given honest consideration as to what is best for our students, and the same is true of any of you other board members who agree with him. If you ask me what is best for the students of our district, Mr. O'Brien's contract would be renewed at the next board meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Coffey. Our next speaker is Mr. Don Coffey, Judge Don Coffey.
I'm Don Coffey, and I come here to speak tonight in favor of the voluntary resignation of Pete Poppy and Al Rashard. of Pete Poppy and Howard Shard. As school board presidents, you have refused to allow Randy O'Brien to run this district without your pervasive interference. Let's start with the most recent bond election. A large group of us worked for months on putting forth a bond proposal that was carefully crafted to meet the needs of the children of Goose Creek while being affordable to the taxpayers. Our committee recommended around $299 million for Prop 1. Our proposal had been vetted by citizens, Goose Creek staff, engineers, architects, and the administration. But on that fateful night, Al Richard took the lead in ignoring our work and adding over $86 million to the proposal and thus ensuring its failure. Many of my friends asked why you did it, and I told them flat out it was so you could blame Randy O'Brien when it failed. And doing that is exactly what you and Pete Poppy have been doing. Pete Poppy wasn't there that night. Poppy has a 40% absentee rate to board meetings. But your poor attendance has not kept you from creating havoc in this district. Your insistence of changing our children's start times was not done, once again, not by the administration, but by the board at Pete Poppy's insistence. Your start time scheme adds dozens of buses and millions of dollars to the cost of educating our children, and great stress on students and their parents. But Pete Poppy's family will not be impacted or inconvenienced because he sends his children to Deer Park ISD. Since first becoming a board member, Richard has schemed to redraw the high school attendance zones to reduce student numbers at his former school, Goose Creek Memorial. So once again, without recommendation from the administration, you took it upon yourself to disrupt the lives of students to achieve your personal goal without regard for the havoc created at Robert E. Lee by dumping nearly 500 students in a facility that has narrow halls and has been listed for years at a capacity of 1,800 and will now have over 2,000.
1 minute.
Your worst efforts are now being directed towards one of the best superintendents this district has seen for decades. Recently, Al Richard's efforts in the community has been to disparage Randy O'Brien by telling anyone who would listen that there are things he just can't tell you about the problems in the district. The reason he won't tell is there are none with Randy, but with Richard himself and Pete Poppy. Your behavior has violated everything board members are taught in the way you conduct yourselves at board meetings, and more especially outside of those meetings. Power and authority can be very intoxicating, and the two of you are drunk with power. It's hurting our children, and the people in this room are not going to sit idly by and watch the two of you run this man out of town. This power-drunk behavior has to stop. This is a boardroom, not a beer joint. Happy hour is over, and it's time to set the bottle down and hand your keys to the designated driver, Randy O'Brien. Your reckless and petty behavior has put the success of our children at risk, and this is unacceptable. So the two of you either voluntarily resign your position of trust that you have violated, or there will be an involuntary separation come May of 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey. Our next speaker is Shay Qatar. Shay Qatar. Cotter. Sorry, Shay. Sorry.
Well, I didn't think it was going to be a big deal going after Don. Good evening. Our country is more polarized right now than we've been in a very long time. Unfortunately, it's the way we've been heading for decades, and it grows ever more divided with every single administration on a national scale. However, all politics are local. And tonight in Goose Creek, we don't stand divided. We stand united. Parents, administrators, students, teachers, and taxpayers alike support and love Randy O'Brien. I've had trustees tell me things like, I like Randy as a person, but as a leader, ... As if to allude to some defect unknown to the rest of us who just don't know any better. Many of you who sit on the board have personally told me of these sorts of defects as you see them, yet still, my support of Randy is unwavering and resolute. What you may call a flaw may not necessarily be so, and we, the public, may not be as in the dark as you think we are. Perhaps it is time to ask whether or not our support for Randy includes a support for his leadership and his style. I have deep ties in this district, as you all know. For 12 years now, I've worked tirelessly as a volunteer at 3 elementary schools, 2 junior highs, and most recently at GCM for the last 4 years. I have deep connections with administrators, teachers, parents, and students. And in my 40 years in this town, 40 plus, I won't tell you how many, I've never seen a larger group of people who feel that a superintendent supports them, cares about them, and engages with them the way that Randy O'Brien does. What you are currently doing is taking us down a treacherous road. This board has lost all public confidence, and you have found yourselves in a defensive position. It comes through in the change of tone of your letters to the Baytown Sun, and it comes through in your emails to me today. Why? This is not an us against them situation. You are not here to defend yourselves against us. You are here to listen to us. You are here to represent us. You are here to act on the voices of the ones who elected you. It has nothing to do with whether or not you'll get reelected, as if you care about that. It has everything to do with doing the right thing. You're a public servant. Please don't forget that tonight. Restore public confidence by extending Randy's contract for 3 more years. Show the public you listen and will represent them as you've been elected to do so. If you fire O'Brien, we're getting rid of the wrong people. And I'm not just alluding to the board. I'm alluding to the remnants of the previous administration that are tearing our district to shreds. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shay. Our next speaker is Robert Chambliss.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I don't have any prepared speech, and following judge is going to be pretty tough. I speak tonight. I am a teacher at Robert E. Lee High School, and I've been employed at this district for 12 years, and I'm sick and tired of having a new superintendent every 2 to 3 years. A lot of you on the board work in different school districts. Galena Park's had 2 in 30 years. Mark Henry left for $400,000. I don't blame him. Dr. Williams has been there her whole career. Pasadena's had the same for umpteen years. My son graduated from Barbers Hill, same superintendent for 14, 15 years. I know I did the research like everyone else has done. The average expectancy of a superintendent is 3 years. But for God's sake, every 3 years we're going to change here at Goose Creek. He's my 4th superintendent in 12 years, and if you let him go, this is my 5th. Who's speaking of convocations? Some new person you just picked out of the wind? I mean, this is getting ridiculous. I've had 4 principals at the high school. Goose Creek's had 2 principals, 1 sitting on the board, and Sterling's on their 4th principal in a decade. It's just a revolving door, revolving door. We'll never compete with any other district, the districts you guys, some of you work with, if all we do is keep changing leadership. I'm a big sports analogy. Can you imagine the Patriots winning 6 Super Bowls when Bill Belichick leaves every 2 to 3 years? I don't understand. And the sad part is the ones that left before Mr. O'Brien, they didn't leave voluntarily. They left, and y'all paid them out over $1 million for the last 3 that's left. I mean, I teach economics, and hell, if you give me $1 million, heck, I'll leave. But it's crazy just paying people out left and right. I speak for the teachers, and there's a lot of us here. There's a lot of teachers. We are 21 days. We have students in our classroom in 21 days. For God, how are we going to even have leadership in 21 days? Our principals want to know who the next superintendent is if it's not Mr. O'Brien. So you want to just put us in this tumultuous thing again, just every few years changing. I understand why the last one left. I understand the one before left. I understand why all of them leave. But this is just not cost efficient. It's not cost efficient at all. And I just ask you to renew his contract.
1 minute remaining.
And I see your values right here, and I ask you, do all 7 of you follow those core values? Do you put children first? Do you collaborate? Do you collaborate with the community? Do you ask the parent involved? Here, I'll ask the parent involved, but you want Randy O'Brien to get leave? There's your answer. There's your parental involvement. You don't have to call a town hall meeting and have it at GCM or Sterling and 25 people show up. Here, you've got hundreds in here, hundreds out there, hundreds in other rooms. I think they're speaking loudly and proud. Let Randy O'Brien stay as our superintendent.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chambliss. Our next speaker is Ms. Debbie Hemsel.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Hemsel, and I'm a teacher at Goose Creek Memorial High School. My reason for addressing the board tonight is to ask that you renew Randy O'Brien's contract as a proven, effective leader for our district. My 3-minute limit does not allow time to list numerous reasons that have been stated or published since these circumstances became public knowledge. He has built strong relationships within the community and throughout the school district, which enhance a successful school environment. Mr. O'Brien's responses in yesterday's Baytown Sun told of his desire to stay, to be supportive in working with this board in the future, and most importantly, to put the focus back on students and start this school year off on the right foot. I believe that's what we all want. He spoke with humility and grace, which showed his true character between the lines. One board member that I respect but disagree with stated that a board member has to make a decision without emotion based on the TASB document. Common sense tells me that no decision should truly be made void of feeling, meaning that we have to be in touch with the overall picture. A good superintendent who is a great fit for our district cannot be judged by one performance-driven document any more than a student's can be on one state-mandated test. And we all remember that same document did not work too well for us with the last superintendent. In fact, I sat beside 3 of you current board members in citizens' meetings where this very thing was discussed, the infamous summer of 2014. Wading through legal wording is not my specialty, but I did look online as suggested and found on the TASB website a district may develop its own appraisal process and performance criteria in consultation with the district and campus level committees. So there must be some latitude in this decision. But the elephant in the room to me is that I'm surprised Mr. O'Brien didn't get anything but praise, considering this year's evaluation began July 2017, a few weeks before a disaster like we've never experienced and pray we never will again in our lifetime. Its devastation had more faces than we can count, including Mr. O'Brien's own family.
1 minute.
But somehow he led our amazing employees, students, and families to develop a can-do-it attitude through it all. The quote, "It's amazing how much can be accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit," was textbook for the teamwork with Mr. O'Brien as our leader. For us to even stay academically steady the last year was commendable. 2017-18 may have been our district's best year for teaching and developing young citizens, as academics were just one part of life lessons that no one will forget. My final thoughts in closing. There are good decisions and there are bad decisions. And how do we know when we're making the best decisions? This takes wisdom, but where do we get it? The Bible has a direct answer to that, including numerous verses in Proverbs, but I'll quote just one. "Without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed." If I were in your shoes and the community was divided over this, I'm sure I would wrestle with my decision. But the only divide in this situation seems to be the great divide between the board and everybody else. The list of business and community leaders and citizens who have publicly voiced 100% support in keeping Randy O'Brien is more than lengthy. Counsel from so many well-respected leaders in our community is where you will find wisdom in making your decision. Please show that you are open to the guidance of others and make the wise choice to renew Randy O'Brien's contract as our superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Hemsel. Our next speaker is Thomas Parent.
Good evening. How many people are allowed to speak tonight? Oh, how many people are allowed to speak tonight?
30 minutes.
10, 30 minutes?
Yep. 3 minutes each.
Is the board allowed to extend the time and add more than 10 people? Because there's a lot of people here that look like they want to support Randy.
It's not in our policy used to state that. It does not state it anymore. It was updated in April.
Oh, okay. Well, so would you be willing to consider extending the time?
again, it's not. It gives us, we don't have that in our policy. We used to be able to do that.
Okay. Sounds like something you guys might want to consider for the future.
I agree with you.
Okay. So I'd like to express my support of Superintendent Randy O'Brien. My interactions with him have been limited, but what I can tell is that he really listens to people when you're having a discussion with him. He tries to see a topic from your point of view, and he's extremely candid in his responses. He's the type of person you don't really see frequently in government anymore, or schools, school administration, and it's refreshing. It helps maintain confidence in the district that's otherwise being eroded. Superintendent O'Brien should not only be allowed to continue serving through June of 2019, but he should have his contract renewed at the earliest date possible so he can continue to lead Goose Creek CISD forward. I've also heard the rumblings, it's been mentioned earlier, about micromanagement by the board. And I've seen personally instances where it's obviously happening. Y'all need to stop overstepping and let him do his job as the chief administrator of the district. After the May 5th defeat of the $437 million bond package, we were extremely hopeful that we'd be able to take the summer, work together, and develop a great bond package that would meet the needs of the district and pass this November. Unfortunately, this board has shown zero interest in addressing the real needs of the district and has instead spent the summer conspiring to remove our superintendent. We heard from the facilities group on August 2nd that if a bond was not approved in November of 2018, that schools would be over capacity by 2020, even if the bond passes in May of 2019. So why is that not a higher priority for this board than removing Randy O'Brien as our superintendent? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Parent. Our next speaker is Representative Briscoe Kane.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Briscoe Kane. Just want to first start off by thanking my parents for dropping me off tonight and letting me be here. To the media guys, don't worry, I'm actually old enough to drive. I know you may not have known that was a joke. So there's an old rule in politics that legislators are supposed to stay out of local government issues. That's because you're not supposed to step on anybody's toes. But I didn't campaign on, and I don't believe that I was elected to avoid stepping on people's toes. I was elected to make the hard decisions and do what I believe was right. So despite all of that, the positive accomplishments that Randy O'Brien has done as our superintendent of Goose Creek CISD, there's some that would like to see him go. Let me be clear. Randy's departure would be a huge loss for the district. Yes. Can you hold up your signs one more time? Just real quick, in case anybody forgot? Yeah. Parents, students, and district employees all share the same sentiment, that O'Brien is one of the best superintendents that GCCISD has had. As you can see, the community is united in support of Randy to remain as superintendent. Mr. Shea Cotter made the following point, but I want to say it again. At a time that people seem to always be so divided by political parties, that's not what we're seeing tonight. We're seeing people of all affiliations united behind one thing, and that's that they want to keep their superintendent, Randy O'Brien. So, though I may not agree with every decision the board makes, GCCISD is undoubtedly one of the best school districts in the state. Much of that success is owed to Randy's leadership. And in due part to the great teachers, of course, that are in this room. Good job, y'all. He's well respected in the community. He led the district through rebounding from Harvey. He's fostered a bottom line up culture where all staff, not just other administrators, are heard. They feel heard. And they've taken the approach of making decisions with our community rather than just for the community. I realize I have like 30 seconds left, but you know that policy says they're allowed to have 30 minutes, and maybe you should let somebody else speak for the rest of my time. But thank you guys for all we do.
right, thank you, Representative Kane. Our next speaker is Mr. Terry Sane.
Good evening, gentlemen, and I say that respectfully. I'm excluding Ms. Woods from this because she has taken the position to be the only one to really show support for I didn't come here to demean you. I have, as a former city councilman, here in Baytown, I've sat in somewhat of a similar position of having a opposition to a decision. But in all of the decisions that I made, I used three criteria. I looked at, was it good for the community, the residents? Was it good for the employees of the city of Baytown? And it was going to be cost effective. Was it going to be a burden to us in a cost manner? In the way I look at this, this is not anything that the community is wanting. This is something that's going to be detrimental to the community, the residents, the students. I look at the employees, the teachers, the staff. My wife is going close to a 20-year teacher here in Goose Creek, CCISD. From what I've gained from her knowledge, Mr. O'Brien is the only superintendent that has ever set foot in her classroom over these years. It shows the leadership and the willingness. And this is after I had chosen not to run for city council again. So it was not anything in a ploy to show any kind of political favoritism, anything like that. Over the past year, I have been campaigning for State Representative District 128. I have met with superintendents from every school district in this district, from Pasadena to LaPorte, Deer Park. At that time, the superintendent in Crosby, all the way up to Huffman. And in sharing with them that I had spoken with Mr. O'Brien about this, and that I had his support in moving forward, they all professed great admiration for Mr. O'Brien, his leadership here in this district. They said he was one of the best superintendents in their opinion, that it could be in the state of Texas. How lucky, how fortunate we were to have someone like him. And I cannot echo what I feel about Mr. O'Brien, what has been said. The leadership, the admiration. I have lunch with Mr. O'Brien just almost every week, and I have never seen him come in a down mood. Even during Harvey in some of those times, he came in positive, upbeat. Even going through the situation he did with his home, it shows that this man is committed to being here in Baytown. He cares about the students. He cares about being involved and engaged here. And I think that we should be looking at some other things during this time. The safety of our students. Those are things that we saw happen here in the state not too far from home. Those are the things we should be looking at imposing, not getting rid of a superintendent that's doing a great job, but ensuring the safety of our students. So thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Singh. The next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to move for approval July 21st special board meeting. Sorry, June 21st.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Augustine Laredo, second by Ms. Jessica Woods for the June 21st, 2018 special board meeting. All right. We'll try this again. Is that better? We have a motion by Mr. Augustine Laredo, a second by Ms. Jessica Woods for the June 21st, 2018 special board meeting. there any discussion? Any discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes 5 yeas, 0, and 2 abstain.
He was here.
Okay.
He wasn't sure.
Okay. So 6 support, 0 nay, and 1 abstain. Next item is B, July 2nd, 2018 regular board meeting. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Ricky Clem. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second by Mr. Ben Poppy. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Okay, motion passed. We have 6 yeas. Any nays? Or absence? All right, abstain. Motion passes 6 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstain. Next item is number 5, action items. Consideration of consent agenda.
Board President, Board, at this time administration recommends the approval of the consideration of consent agenda. 1, naming the press box at Stallworth Stadium, the Jim Finley press box. Number 2, memorandum of understanding for juvenile justice alternative education program for 2018-19. Number 3, memorandum of understanding for Harris County Department of Education with Harris County Department of Education for High Point School East. Number 4, 2018-19 Communities and Schools of Baytown Memorandum of Agreement. Number 5, request to extend teacher data portal of the Texas Assessment Management System waiver for the 2019 through 2021 school years. Number 6, memorandum of understanding to perform an energy savings feasibility study. Number 7, first option to extend RFP for specialized services for special education students with mental health and or behavioral disabilities. Number 8, approval of Instructional Leadership Council, ILC, end of school year report. Number 9, service agreement with InterQuest Canines. Number 10, renewal of the aggregate deductible plan for workers' compensation insurance coverage. Number 11, endorsement of representatives for the Texas Association of School Boards, TASB, Board of Directors, Region 4, Position A and Position C. Number 12, deductive change order. Number 10, is submitted by and to amend the contract with Comex Corporation to decrease the construction cost of the repair and renovations to security systems at various district facilities. Number 13, purchase of the Houston Methodist San Jacinto Hospital, the Alexandra campus. Number 14, purchase of property for elementary number 18. Number 15, resolution expressing intent to finance expenditures to be incurred for the purchase of approximately 21.08 acres located at 2610 North Alexander Drive, Baytown, Texas, 77520, together with all improvements and buildings known as the Houston Methodist San Jacinto Hospital from local funds with the intention of a future reimbursement from bond funds. Number 16, resolution expressing intent to finance expenditures to be incurred for the purchase of approximately 13.1 acres, the South Winds development area located on the Kilgore Parkway in Chambers County, Texas, for future construction of an elementary school number 18 from local funds with the intention of future reimbursement from bond funds. Number 17, superintendent's expenditures. Number 18, budget amendments. Administration recommends approval of these consent agenda items.
Do we have any items?
Pull number 1.
Have to pull? Pull number 1?
Number 1.
Okay. Any other items? Any board members like to have pulled?
I have questions for clarification, but I don't need the item.
Okay. I would like to pull item number 6, but go ahead with your questions.
I have questions regarding 13, 14, 15, and 16.
All right.
Okay. In our board packet, 13, the purchase of the Houston Methodist San Jacinto Hospital. In our board packet, we were provided details of what the contractual agreement would be if we purchased that land. On the overhead photo, the aerial photo, the outline in green was what we were purchasing, I assume.
Yes, sir.
I believe it was. We've
Yes,
had
sir.
discussions with this in closed session before.
Yes, sir.
The 2 red boxes, were those the ones that we will not have control over for 3 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's a lease back.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to make sure. The smaller portion, I understand there's one full building. The other one, it looks like 1/4 of the building is not going to be usable for 3 years to us. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What is currently there that they couldn't maybe relocate? And I'm just asking.
I believe it's a long-term care facility, and the limitations are based upon the construction time frame with the expansion of our current San Jacinto Hospital.
Okay.
So it does align with their construction dates. Also, when the space becomes available in the future, those people will be able to
that
relocate.
smaller section would go with their new construction.
That's correct.
That's what my understanding was when we discussed earlier about
Yes,
this.
sir. That's my understanding as well.
Thank you. Okay. My question, can I ask the next question?
Yes, sir.
On the property for elementary number 18, I know Mr. O'Brien and I met with those developers quite a while back, and we've been anxious to try to get some of that, and I am impressed that we were able to get a better piece of land than we actually were offered at first.
Yes.
My question is about that drainage ditch, because now we're looking at the property adjacent to the drainage ditch. Are we sure that we're covered in terms of the devastation from Harvey last year, that drainage ditch wouldn't possibly present some problems for us 10 years down the road?
So there's no guarantees in life.
We have been provided
we
never thought that
yes,
all
sir.
the schools would be
Yes, sir, but we have been provided the assurances that the engineers have reviewed this, and one of the benefits of this location also is that drainage site, the creek, actually allows for us not to have to dig a hole in the ground that we just bought. So the 13 acres, we're able to maximize use of the entire land.
No retention required.
No retention on that property required because of the close proximity of this, and that's already been in design by the developer of that land.
Good. Very good. And then finally, on the reimbursement resolutions, I just want to hear one more time from the beginning of this resolution does not start. The timeline would not start until closing on these two properties?
That's correct. The only thing we're asking for at this time for the board to approve me to enter into negotiations for these acquisitions. Those the timeline does not start until, as you said, funds are transferred.
And then what is the timeline? Is it 180 days? Or is it
It's
a
18
year?
months.
18 months.
From the time of close of transactions. My understanding, someone could correct me, Dr. Price, it's 18 months from the time of close on the sales of the property.
Quite a bit of lead time
Yes.
from the time of closing.
From now, it could be 2 years from now.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies my questions.
Thank you, sir.
All right, any board members have any further questions? All right, do we have a motion?
I move approval of consent agenda items 2 through 18 as presented.
I wanted to pull 6.
Okay. Oh, we pulled 6?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I am so sorry. I did not hear that.
You want to revise your
motion?
You want to revise?
Since it doesn't have a second.
Okay.
A move to approve consent agenda items 2 through 5 and 7 through 18.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. A motion by Mr. Al Richard. Mine's going, and a second by Mr. Ricky Clem. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion passes 6-0. Okay, item number 1, naming the press box at Stover Stadium.
I'd like to move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Augustine Laredo. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Al Richard. Any further discussion?
I just want to be clear that I pulled the item because our policy requires a vote of 5 board members to accomplish this naming. I'm sure we're all going to, but I wanted it to be clear that that's what happened.
All right, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion passes 7-0. And then item number 6, memorandum of understanding to perform energy savings feasibility study. I just wanted to pull this item because I am working with this company in my day job, so I'm going to recuse myself from this vote. So, do we have a motion for this item?
Move for approval.
Let me rephrase that. I'm working with them, not working for them. I'm just meeting with them to do a similar project. All right, we have a motion, Mr. Augustine Laredo?
Yes.
We have a second, Mr. Ricky Clem. All in favor, raise your right hand. Any any nays? 1 abstain. All right, the next item on our agenda is future board agenda items, board training and board meetings.
Mr. President, I would like to bring future board agenda item, or at least a board discussion, for us to possibly revisit our recently changed board policy about one meeting per month. We were supposed to be able to do that to be effective and efficient, but we have not gone a month yet that we have not required a special meeting. And I think when we get together, we have to pull our cell phones out and try to find a time where we could have a quorum. I would like us to revisit in the future going back to 2 set meetings per month. Thank you.
I'd like to work on, have a discussion and maybe vote on modifying our public comment policy.
BED local.
Yes.
I would like to, in light of the one meeting per month, I would like to see us have either a workshop or discussion meeting of some sort on our bond forums that have been completed. I think we have a letter from Ms. Garcia concerning, I don't have it. Oh, okay, look. Sorry. Okay, so I have a letter from Brenda about the bonds, but I would like to see us have something before September to discuss recommendations from the bond forums and to get our planning committee together.
Just a note from administration, in order to call for a bond in November, if the board wished to do so, the deadline to call for that bond would be on August 20th. So if you wish to do so, you would need to set a date prior to that to call for the bond and or on that particular date. Just another note from administration, there may be need to have a special call meeting to approve personnel by the end of this month as well. And Mr. Richard, to your point, I think since we went to one meeting a month, we've had at least 3 per month. So if we get back on a routine, possibly we'll be able to at least minimize the number of special call meetings.
I also have another agenda item I would like to see on our future agenda, either the special meeting or the next regularly called meeting. The renewal of Mr. O'Brien's contract as superintendent of GCCISD.
All right, any other items, future meetings? All right, I got revisit the monthly meetings, revisit local policy BED on the public participation, potentially a special meeting to discuss the bond, which the bond would need to be called on no later than August 20th. And also, Ms. Jessica was requested a superintendent contract be added to the special meeting for the next week. To add the superintendent contract to the next meeting or the next special meeting, and then also personnel for another meeting in this month.
I have one other thing on here also. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is September 3rd.
Is that Labor Day?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
So do we need to?
That's
a holiday, y'all. But I mean, obviously we need to have something before that if we want to call a special board meeting to do the bond issues and all before that, something in August.
Then we can schedule the September meeting at that time.
Oh, next week.
Yeah.
Okay. It would have to be next week or the tail end of this week.
As far as a special meeting to discuss the bond, do we have any proposed dates?
August 15th.
August, that's the 5th Wednesday?
Yes.
And if we're calling for November, we have to do it before the 20th. Is that what was
Yes.
spoken?
Right.
Will one meeting be adequate before the 20th? Just asking.
I'm free.
Administration, do you have, one will you think that'd be adequate?
One would be
All
good
right.
for us, yes.
All right.
The 14th, I checked, and that's one open date. that doesn't have a school-related function on. I believe it's a Tuesday, I'm not sure.
It is Tuesday the 14th.
Tuesday the 14th is one thing that doesn't have an evening event as we begin to kick off all the start of the school New Year. But I don't know.
For clarification, what was the August 15th and 20th dates open or off the calendar?
I had suggested the 15th.
Okay. And did we have any?
I think that's available as well.
Okay.
I'm available the 15th. Anybody else?
The 15th is a Wednesday.
Wednesday,
night.
yeah. Sound good to everybody?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So
Did
August
we need
15th?
a motion to add a meeting on Wednesday, August 15th?
In addition to the cancellation of Labor Day.
In addition?
Or,
okay. Yeah.
or
good point. Good
moving
point.
another meeting.
Make a motion that we cancel the September 3rd meeting, the Labor Day meeting, and add August 15th as a regular meeting, special meeting, whatever it needs to be called, as a meeting.
All right, we have a motion, Mr. Albershard, to cancel the September 3rd regular board meeting and add a regular and/or special meeting, depending on what's required, needed on August 15th. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second by Mr. Augustine Laredo. Any further discussion?
Just to clarify, in our weekly board report, the September meeting is scheduled on the 4th.
I believe the 3rd is a Sunday. That's right, because I think I had football tickets for the Sunday.
September 3rd is a Monday.
I think we've already set that meeting because I
So
have
we
also.
moved it to the 4th already?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we've already moved it to the, so we just canceled a meeting that doesn't exist.
No, we haven't yet.
Oh, we haven't. Do you want
I thought we did. It's
Did
on
we
my
get a
calendar.
second? If not, I will withdraw my motion.
to, Augustine made a second.
Okay, let's just vote on it.
All right, all in favor?
Vote.
All right. Your comment?
Do we still need the August 15th meeting?
Yes.
Yes, that's
And
for the
then the
bond.
motion was to cancel the September 3rd meeting, which isn't even on the calendar.
So we can go ahead.
I guess we could go ahead and do it.
All right. So we have a motion by Mr. Richard, a second by Mr. Augustine Laredo. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Okay. So
All right, motion passes 7-0.
meeting on the 15th.
All right, the next section on our agenda is the closed meeting, or closed session, sorry. Now, the board will now recess into a closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.071 through 551.087. No action will be taken while the board is in closed meeting. The time is 9:34. We'll now reconvene from closed session. Remind you that no action was taken while the board was in closed session.
At this time, administration recommends the consideration of personnel. Administration recommends approval of the elections, resignations, and retirements as presented.
Move for approval.
A second. We have a motion from Mr. Augustine Laredo, a second from Mr. Ricky Clem. Do you have any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Motion passes 7-0. Can everybody hear me in the back? Okay. Okay.
You told him to do that.
They did. My fault. All right, next item.
Administration has several administrative positions for recommendation. We'll do them one at a time. The elementary counselor at Hopper Primary is recommended Nikita Batista.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
A second. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Ricky Clem, a second by Mr. Ben Poppy. Any discussion? All in favor, raise the right hand. All right, motion passes 7-0. Our next item, sorry.
As 3C, educational diagnostician Cynthia Johnson and Anna Millette.
Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
We have an approval by Mr. Richard, a second by Mr. Augustine Laredo. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
Administration recommends for student support administrator at Banuelos Elementary, Chase Kruger.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ricky Clem, a second by Mr. Al Rashard. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
Administration recommends for student support administrator at Highlands Elementary, Robin Wright.
Move approval.
We have a motion by Mr. Al Rashard, a second by Ms. Jessica Woods. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
Administration has a student support administrator at Alamo Elementary, recommended Erica Box.
Move for approval.
My second.
We have a motion by Ms. Jessica Woods. We have a second by Mr. Ben Poppy. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
Administration recommends approval of selection of an elementary principal at Banuelos Elementary, Dolores Perez. I'm sorry, assistant principal.
Okay. Do we have the behavior management specialist?
Yeah, I got lost somewhere. So.
Yeah, I'm lost.
We'll go.
There's item E3F that we're considering at the moment, elementary assistant principal.
Thank you.
Move for approval.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Augustine Laredo, a second by Ms. Jessica Woods. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
Did we do E?
Yeah,
we need to go back
and you'll need to forgive me. We did have an item that we pulled that would be 3B, but I do not have a name for the item for 3E.
Okay.
Mr. Chapa, can you assist me at this moment?
Yes, sir. It's Spade Smith Chu.
For behavior management specialist.
Behavior management specialist. Yes, ma'am.
At what campus?
That is going to be special education.
Yes, I don't think that's a campus position. I make a move approval of Faith Smith Chu as behavior management specialist.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Al Rashard, a second by Mr. Augustine Laredo. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0.
That concludes administration's recommendations for personnel.
All right, the next items, I do have a statement I would like to read. After having positive dialogue with the superintendent, we are going to pull items F and G from tonight's agenda. It is a desire of both the board and the superintendent to work together for the best interest of the district. We will complete the evaluation and act on the superintendent contract at the next meeting.
I just wanted to say there are no words to express my gratitude and appreciation for the showing tonight. Very heartfelt. Had to hold back a few times tonight just to know that you came here to stand up for what you've witnessed in my actions across the district. It means so much to me that you have come here tonight to express not only your friendship, but your support of me as serving as the superintendent of schools for Goose Creek CISD. Thank you all so much. I have one more statement. I will say, Mr. Poppy did relate it, that we've had a positive dialogue in the back, and that is accurate. I do anticipate a positive outcome at the next meeting that we've discussed. No action taken, clearly, but I believe we are moving in the right direction to start the new school year, and I want to express my gratitude to the Board of Trustees as well for listening and hearing, and you, not only you, but also in our conversations this evening that went so positive. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All right. We're adjourned.
Aye.